Hello students, today we shall discuss on the topic modernization of agriculture and its impact on agriculture sustainability. The introduction. Agriculture modernization refers to the transformation in the process and means of traditional agriculture to modern agriculture. In this process, agriculture with modern industry, advancement in science and technology, and modern economy methods make up the agricultural productivity which is otherwise not possible in the traditional agriculture, thereby bringing agriculture to an advanced level. Agricultural modernization is a psychological state of farmers' mind. Indian society has been undergoing far-reaching changes over the last 100 years, and few of these changes can be subsumed under modernization. The main factor in the modernization process is represented by the levels of functional achievement attainable as a result of rapid and continuing growth of knowledge and technology in particular. There has been a transition from traditional farming to modern commercial agriculture due to availability and growth of infrastructural facilities like improved seeds, varieties like high-yielding varieties, fertilizers, pesticides, supplies and services, market facilities literacy, mass media, research, teaching and extension. However, modern crop production technology has considerably raised output but has created problems of land degradation, pesticide residues in farm produce, gene erosion, atmospheric and water pollution. The definition. What is modernization of agriculture? Modernization of agriculture is defined as a process of transforming agriculture from traditional labor-based agriculture to technology-based agriculture. It is one of the fundamental issues in agricultural policies, particularly in countries where agriculture is less developed. We can see that in many countries, agriculture is a sector of economy which keeps a greater distance from the remaining sectors from modern solutions in the areas of production technology and organization, implementation of modern technological and IT solutions, as well as management methods, and also with regard to the utilization of the institutional setting. The speed and the scope of the creation and implementation of modernization of farms ensure their permanent competitive edge. We can also see that low-income countries are burdened with primitive technologies, which is both a reason for and a consequence of low incomes. Therefore, the modernization process and technological change are regarded as the driving force behind economic growth. What is sustainable agriculture? Simply stated, sustainable agriculture is a form of agriculture aimed at meeting the needs of the present generation without endangering the resource base of the future generations. The basic challenge for sustainable agriculture is to make better use of available biophysical and human resources. This can be done by minimizing the use of external inputs, by optimizing the use of internal resources, or by combinations of both. Sustainable agriculture seeks the integrated use of a wide range of pest, nutrient, agroforestry, soil and water management technologies. Byproducts or waste from one component or enterprise become inputs to another. As natural processes increasingly substitute the external inputs, the impact on environment is reduced. The revolution of modern agriculture. The modern agricultural revolution that thrived in the developed countries from the late 1950s onwards was based on the development of new means of production and trade, which in turn resulted from revolutions in industry, biotechnology, transport and communications. Next is the Industrial Revolution. The second Industrial Revolution provided the means for motorization, that is, internal combustion engines, electric motors, tractors and increasingly powerful machinery, fuels and electricity. Large-scale mechanization, that is, increasingly complex and efficient machinery for tillage, treatment and harvesting. Heavy mineral fertilization like ammonium, nitrate, phosphate, potassium and compound fertilizers. Treatment of pests and diseases with herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, veterinary drugs, etc. And the conservation and processing of vegetable and animal products, that is, industrialization of preservation techniques through coal, heat, drying, smoking, freeze drying, ionization, fermentation or the addition of salt, sugar and other food, that is, preservatives. Next is the biotechnology revolution. It's supplied through selection, high-yielding plant varieties and animal breeds that were adapted to the new means of industrial production and were capable of making this profitable. Next is the transport revolution. It began in the 19th century with the development of railways and steamboats, received a new boost with the motorization of transport by truck, train, boat and aeroplane. This opened up farms and agricultural regions and enabled them to procure their fertilizer, feed and other inputs from other areas and in large quantities. It also allowed for the sale of their products, including perishable and unmanageable goods, in increased amounts and to wider areas. Next is the communications revolution. It is based partly on the transport revolution and partly on telecommunications developments, provided the means for long-distance information supply and commercial transactions. This prompted distant trade and the organization of the large-scale administrative, productive, financial and trade structures that are integral to the modern industrial and agricultural revolution. Agricultural holdings of a few hectares per worker engaged in mixed crop and livestock farming using animal traction and producing much of their forage, manure, seeds, livestock and food were still very common in the developed countries in the 1950s. Rapid though it was, this major metamorphosis did not take place all at once. It occurred through progressive transformations in the line with progress in industrialization, breeding technology and means of transport and communications, and in step with enlargement and capitalization of an ever-dwindling number of agricultural units. Problems, impact of modern agriculture. The Earth's climate has been considered till recently as a remarkably stable, self-correcting machine, taking care of all human misadventure and assaults on fragile biosphere. But it is clear that nature cannot be taken for granted. Modern technology of both industry and agriculture, as well as other developmental activities of modern society, are highly exploitative in nature, enhancing pollution and causing enormous damage to the environment. Emission of smoke and gases from industry and automobiles, etc., is increasing carbon dioxide content of the atmosphere. Effluents of the industry and mining are contaminating water bodies and are degrading the land. High dose of nitrogenous fertilizers are polluting water bodies with high levels of nitrates. Pesticide residues in soil contaminates with water bodies. The developmental activities, including agriculture, hasten the degradation of land, denudation of forests, loss of arable land, desertification and reduction of genetic diversity. Halting pollution of air and water is a great challenge which is intimately connected with the health of the population and the ecosystem. Inland water bodies and coastal areas have so far been treated as dumping grounds for wastes, thus affecting aquatic and marine life. Damage to the ozone layer. Ozone layer in the atmosphere protects the surface of the earth from ultraviolet radiation from the sun. If the ozone layer disappears, there will be adverse effect on humans, animals, and crops, which ultimately will bring about unpredictable changes in weather and climate. Ozone concentration of the stratosphere is declining at nearly 1% per year. This is due to the release of chemicals such as chlorofluorocarbons, nitrogen oxide, and methane into the atmosphere. These chemicals are used as refrigerants, cleaning fluids, and aerosol propellants, etc. When these chemicals reach the stratosphere of the atmosphere, ultraviolet rays of sun break them apart and release chlorine, which destroys the ozone layer. For every 1 molecule of chlorine from chlorofluorocarbons, about 1 lakh molecules of ozone are removed from the ozone layer. The carbon dioxide content. Carbon dioxide and water vapor play a vital role in maintaining the delicate heat balance that determines the temperature on the surface of the earth. The two gases are transparent to visible solar radiation and so allow sunlight to pass through, but they prevent infrared radiation from escaping and thus effectively trap solar heat. Atmospheric carbon dioxide, by trapping solar heat, produces greenhouse effect and heats up the atmosphere. It is estimated that the Earth's mean temperature would have been as low as -12 degrees centigrade without carbon dioxide, rather than 15 degrees centigrade as it is today. But too much of carbon dioxide is harmful as it will lead to overheating of the atmosphere, which may cause far-reaching climatic changes. The consumption of fossil fuels all over the world has gone up by several thousand-fold since the 1850s, and at the same time, millions of hectares of tropical forests, which are efficient sinks for carbon dioxide, have been denuded of trees. As a result, the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has been increasing. It has increased from 290 parts per million to 340 parts per million, and it may be 400 parts per million in the next 50 years. Due to increase in global temperature, the effect of global warming can lead to the rise of the sea level, changes in rainfall pattern, etc. Land degradation. Out of the total geographical area of 329 million hectares of our country, 265 million hectares is suitable for crop production and about 175 million hectares is affected by soil-related constraints and are classified as wastelands. Soil erosion by water in the form of rill and sheet erosion is a serious problem in the red and lateritic soils of South and Eastern India, where about 40 tons per hectare of topsoils is lost annually. Out of 70 million hectares of black soils of Central India, 6.7 million hectares are already unproductive due to the development of gullies, ravines, and torrents. Shifting cultivation practiced largely in the northeastern India has caused serious land degradation over 4.4 million hectares of land. It has led to extinction of flora and fauna of the region. Denudation of forests. Forests are being denuded for agriculture, fuel wood, pulp, and for other purposes. Deforestation is estimated to be proceeding at the rate of about 1.5 million hectares per year. Early in this century, the forest cover of Himalayas was 60% and it is now estimated to be only 25%. A long-term threat to food production as a result of forest denudation comes from the coincident extinction of genetic resource of plants and animals along with forest canopies. Genes from wild species and primitive cultivars useful in crop breeding, which occur in forest areas, are lost. Some of the tropical forests have been described as pharmaceutical factories, since they contain many medicinal values. Denudation of forest cover causes soil erosion, flood silting of tanks and reservoirs. Deforestation, farming steep slopes, and overgrazing of pastures are the main reasons for increase in volume and rate of runoff and enormous amount of water erosion. Faulty agricultural practices. Various farming operations improperly carried out lead to adverse effects such as loss of topsoil through water and wind erosion. Due to improper management of irrigation water, salinization and alkalinization of soil takes place. An area of 6 million hectares of land is affected by waterlogging and another 7 million hectares is salinized due to faulty irrigation practices. Waterlogging due to inadequate drainage, depletion of groundwater due to excessive extraction, pollution of surface and groundwater with pesticides and fertilizer residues, loss of biological diversity and erosion of germplasm resources through removal of natural fauna and flora are the adverse effects of faulty modern agriculture. Conclusion. Due to modernization of agriculture, the natural resource base is degraded and diminished, and the quality of the environment sustaining human life is adversely affected. Modernization of agriculture, which aims only at increasing production efficiency if it is implemented in accordance with the principles of sustainable development, will enable one to limit the unfavorable external effects. Development of agriculture based on the industrial model encounters obstacles related to the finiteness of natural resources and the capacity of the environment in terms of the consequences of the anthropogenic impact. Another factor which limits the industrial development model is the pressure to include external effects in the economic calculations in agriculture alongside the rights to farm animals as well as the social and cultural consequences such as those related to the viability of rural areas. In the near future, the agriculture-environment relation will be subject to change, taking into account, on the one hand, concern about the natural environment and, on the other, pressure on increasing the efficiency of production. The above challenges will be addressed by the need to implement efficient and, at the same time, environmentally friendly production technologies and relevant legal instruments which oblige agricultural producers to protect the natural environment. Thank you.